Welcome to the YouTube Hard Truths podcast. In this podcast, I'm going to deliver 4 or 5, and if it does well enough, we can maybe enter a season 2, short little nuggets of hard truths about things that you should accept, some mindsets that you should change, things like that with regards to beginning your creative career, be that on YouTube, in podcasting, running social media, or pretty much anything else, although my direct application descriptions will relate to YouTube specifically. I'm EposVox. I am a tech educator and a content creator. I've been on YouTube for 12 years now. I've been on it since pre-Google YouTube era. I've been making videos off and on over the years, and I've gone hardcore full-time as of 2015, and now I run a nice little tech channel of over 100,000 subscribers. Previously, though, I worked for a YouTube MCN, or a multi-channel network, where you used to kind of have to get partnered for 4 years, 2 of which I was YouTube certified in audience growth, although every time the test is the same, you just renew it, basically. So all the knowledge is still there in my brainial. And I was kind of that network's, by the time I left, expert in terms of audience growth and development for strategizing for your channel. I wound up developing an educational course for YouTube growth and success for that network. And after I left, I kept wanting to kind of spin that off further than a couple one-off videos into this kind of content. And that's what I'm doing here. I have a few episodes planned of things that I recorded over the years prior to me leaving that network that I wanted to share in video form, but never really got out there. And so you're going to see some scene changes and some audio quality changes. It still should be pretty good. But for those episodes, as I feel it's important to get my initial what I thought out there. And then for season 2, maybe we'll record some new stuff and see how that turns out. So in this episode, we will be talking about why you are not ready for success, for a bajillion subscribers to show up on your channel right at this very moment, and some reasons of why that's important to keep in mind. And then in future episodes, we'll talk about why your first videos suck, how you know you're on the right path, and a few other topics like that to really get your mind going and your creative juices ready to go. Before we get into the content, I do want to let you know that this episode is sponsored by TubeBuddy. TubeBuddy is what I consider by far to be the best tool you can use to help manage your YouTube channel. You can update your video descriptions in bulk if you need to swap out a link or just swap out all of the links. You can schedule video posting, cross-posting to social media. You can do A/B split tests of test one title versus another, see which does better in terms of views. You can back up the metadata of your channel. You can send in cards from one video to all of your videos to make that aspect of your life easier. It's really cool. They have a bajillion features that I can't list here, but you can try it for free by going to eposvox.com/TubeBuddy or clicking the link in the show notes below. And let's jump in. One of the most common scenarios that you'll find yourself in if you speak with a lot of starter creators, and that I have encountered myself, is a lot of people just want viewers, just want people in general to notice their videos. They don't understand why they can't get a shout out from Big Channel X, from PewDiePie, or why they can't just get a website to feature them and to get all the subscribers and to get lucky as far as they are concerned and get a whole lot of quick growth. And while there are a couple channels that wind up finding success through that kind of luck, for the most part, YouTube channels, creative careers are a very slow built path. It's not something that's just handed to you overnight. It's not something that you just get a lucky break and suddenly take off. Most of the people who get those kinds of overnight successes wind up flopping, wind up going full Lindsay Lohan and not really being able to sustain that success. And that's because if you're handed success before you're ready, before you've earned it, you can't maintain it. You are not, as you work towards success in any field, but especially in a creative field, as you approach that point, you build up the maturity, you build up the experience, the wiseness in terms of what decisions you should make. You develop the PR skills, the community building skills, the audience interaction skills, the content strategy. You build up the know-how of YouTube, of your editing software, of your camera gear to not make amateur mistakes. And all of that builds up to make you a better creator, not only deserving of those subscribers, though I find deserving to be a little bit of a weird word to use in that kind of situation, but to have really earned those subscribers' respect and to keep them around. You build that up over time. You don't build that up just by getting like a whole bunch of people to look in your direction. Anyone can do that. If you've ever watched a toddler in a grocery store, you know that anyone kicking and screaming and making a lot of noise can get a lot of people to look at them. Doesn't mean that's the kind of looks that you want. So when I was still doing gaming videos, but just starting to dip my toes into tech, I sent out more review requests. And one of the very first actual like tech-related review samples I got was one of the early APUs. I think it was from the Trinity series, I want to say, and a motherboard from AMD. They sent it out for review. And my goal was to make a follow-up video from the video that I made, but the video I made was super basic. I like explained what an APU is, I covered the specs, I showed it physically being installed to a motherboard. I had no clue what I was doing in terms of tech content whatsoever. It was like one of my first camera-produced tech videos. It was bad. Honestly though, if you go back and look at Linus's unboxing, although that was probably an NCIX sample and not something he had an obligation to AMD to make, it wasn't much better. But my goal was to do more benchmarks and things like that, and I just ran into trouble with it. My production PC died at the time, things like that. I never followed up. I sent that singular video, and actually I had something wrong. Actually it probably wasn't a Trinity APU, because I think I had it wrong in the video which line of APU was. So I'd immediately, like it had like 2 views, it had just made it up, or put it up, and as I was sending the email I realized it was wrong. Took down the video, re-uploaded it, and had to send them a second link. I've never heard back from AMD since. I never got a reply on that video. I've never been able to get samples or even a response about it since. And I know a lot of those bigger companies now work very differently. They work with a lot of different PR firms, things like that. So there's probably not even necessarily a direct person at AMD who really even wants to handle sample requests. But that's probably my biggest failure, was that was a situation where I got handed an opportunity and I truly was not ready whatsoever for that opportunity. And that's the big thing with growing channels. Whenever they say they wish they could just get a huge shout out with thousands upon thousands of subscribers or a big company deal, you are not ready. Those things usually come when you are ready, when you are just starting out or young, or frankly when you have the thoughts of wishing that would happen. You are not at a point where you're ready to handle that. And the same thing goes for every channel. You get too many subs too quickly when you have no clue what you're doing, it goes very south very poorly. This is both meant to be like motivational / don't be discouraged advice, but at the same time a little bit of perspective to know that you have a long road ahead of you. I will have a future episode of this podcast coming out where I talk about why your first videos suck, and while it will take many videos to reach a point of any sort of real like understanding of what you're doing. And a lot of people, especially if you start young, especially if you haven't had a dry run with YouTube, you start out making really bad content. You may think it's good now, but in a year, if you're still making content, you won't think it's good. Period. No matter what, you will find things to criticize about it, or you'll just flat out find it cringeworthy. This is the case for most creators. They always look back at their original videos and say, holy crap, why did anyone watch me? That's super embarrassing, myself included. And I have a kind of unique position in that I had a really long journey with YouTube prior to finding success with it. And that's because I started young. I am currently 24 years old. I've been on YouTube for 12 years. That is half of my lifetime. I started on YouTube when I was 12 years old. Nothing I made back then was worth any level of success I have now. Nothing, period. I may have wished it was. I may have thought it was. It's not. It wasn't. It shouldn't be. It won't be. I was making crappy gaming videos. I was making random content. I was making things just sporadically. I had no content strategy. I just wanted to make the videos I wanted to make, which means nothing. That means you don't actually have a list of videos that you want to make or a general content purpose that you're hoping to serve. I had no content strategy. I had very little grasp of the editing software. I'd do or say random things to fill the air. You know, there was an early strategy where everyone suggested just saying things to stop saying and or I mean, if you're saying and that's an amateur mistake as well. And so I just started saying random, really dumb things to fill the space, which a lot of kids do. And the whole memeing thing, it's just like, LOL, so random. That was, showing my age a bit there. But, OMG, so random, filling the space. The content wasn't good. I had one video in 2011 go viral. It got 500,000 or maybe 600,000 views over the span of a month. And that was right as I monetized. So I made a nice sum of money from it. And I thought, I've reached YouTube success, boys. The problem was, it wasn't a video related to the content that I made on the channel at all. It was a little Nyan Cat related thing. And the start of it, since I wasn't showing my face on camera at the time, the start of it was a bunch of like intro templates that I had generated, and people are like, why the hell are you talking? Just show us the thing. Video starts at blank. And, that probably prevented it from getting enough views after a certain point. And same thing with most of that was representative of how I was making videos. And so that little segment was preventing people from enjoying normal content as well. It's just, there's this thing where you build up enough experience, you do things enough times that you get better at it, that you get really good at it, and that you can continue to deliver what your audience promises. And especially when it comes to the random content. If you are posting random gaming videos, which seems to be a niche of creators who never actually grow anywhere past 200 subscribers, your audience doesn't know what to expect. They don't have a way to subscribe to your channel and know what they are subscribing for, because every video you post is different, which means your views are going to drastically, you may get a ton of views on one video on a specific game, and then go make a bunch of random other videos because you were already making random videos, and then be like, oh, I want to go back to that game because that game was doing good. And then you don't get those same views because those viewers are already turned off and gone. It's really tough to see. And I truly believe that if you are in a position where you are saying to yourself or saying to others that I wish I could just get more exposure, I wish I could get more exposure, I just want exposure, I struggle with exposure on YouTube, you are not at a point where you're ready for that exposure on YouTube, because that should not be what you're wanting. You should want to have a more efficient workflow. You should wish you could afford to have a bigger team to help you make videos more efficiently. You should wish you had a budget to go to specific conventions or shows or things related to your niche that you want to cover. Not, I just wish more people were paying attention to my random work. This podcast isn't meant to be too brutal or rude or anything like that. Just some things that people don't like to hear. People like to hear encouragement, being told never to give up or to just keep pushing through. But if you don't change your strategy or don't change your mindset, in many cases, you're honestly not going to find success. Because if you're doing things that are inherently unsuccessful or that prevent you from getting success, you are going to be unsuccessful. That is how this whole shindig works. So I implore you to consider, if you're wishing you had more exposure, to consider that you're not ready for that exposure, that you have a lot of work to do before you've really reached a point of success. Thank you for listening to this episode of the YouTube Hard Truths podcast. If you enjoyed it, come check out my YouTube channel over at youtube.com/EposVox. We make tech educational videos there, and we might be syndicating this podcast over to instagram.com/EposVox for Instagram TV as well. And otherwise, just subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast provider to make sure you don't miss any of the episodes. I'm EposVox, and happy creating.